All right, so she said wait to the end for questions. All right, this is the end. This is literally just a Q&A session. Anything you want, we then ramble for 45 minutes, have some fun, talk, whatever, voice your concerns, voice your complaints, all that's totally open. And I may not have all the answers, but if they're important, we'll make sure we can figure out how to get them to you. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
Well, I have to say, this is my first year here, and this is a
Welcome.
very well-run convention.
Thank you.
So that's, everything starts on time, and things run well concurrently and so on. One of the things I've been reflecting on is the differences between this convention, because it's a .org versus, a lot of the .com conventions. And I'm wondering how you see and think about that difference.
Well, I think a number of them, so I have to clarify a little bit. So .com.org doesn't necessarily mean they're a charity or not a charity. Because whether they're a charity or not a charity, because a number of them use .com but are actually run as a charity organization. There's very few for-profit cons out there, BrickWorld being probably the most prominent one. I don't know what Brick Fair's stance is. Brick's Cascade is a charity, but I believe they use .com. We've only been a charity for, the charity's only existed for 3 years that we run the BrickCon Foundation. Before that, we were actually an LLC. Even though we were for-profit, nobody got paid. We ran it as a charity. We just didn't want to deal with the charity paperwork when we founded the LLC because LLCs are really cheap and really easy to set up. But we ran it as if it was a charity. So we have, 2004 is when it was founded, so do the math, 22 years. Running it as if it was a charity, and only in the last 3 years have we, last year was the first year officially running the con as a charity. But we've just been doing it that long. So that's for us. I can't really speak how the other cons run, what they do, because I'm not involved in their board or in their directions. I just attend them. Well, at least a few. So that's about as much as I can answer on it. But yeah, we now that we are an official charity, we're actually now trying to grow that. We see us really trying to embrace our charter, which is promoting the educational use of Lego in STEAM, and it's all letters of that, so it's not STEM, it's STEAM. We want to add the arts. That to us is just as important as the science and technology. So yeah, there's actually, we'll have an announcement at closing ceremonies that something that we're doing along those lines that Kyle's helping head up. And we've been trying to push a scholarship program, but we're having funding issues because the economy is just not kind of in the best shape for funding. But once that picks up, we actually want to add scholarships as a way for people where Lego was an important part of their childhood, can prove to us what that importance was. We actually want to add scholarships to that as another way, another branch. And we already sponsor or assist with 2 charities, other charity organizations. We actually have our 3rd one on site today. We actually have 2 new ones. We haven't figured out what our long-term is on those, but Gretna Hero Foundation, and then I forget the name of the one that collects the bricks, rebuilds the sets, and then gives them to poor families. But those are all important for us as well, from a charity aspect. All right, Kevin.
So I know we're not allowed to move the tables for fire code reasons, and that's perfectly reasonable. Fire marshals are scary. But how much of a lead time process is it to design a new table layout? Is it like months in advance to get the paperwork approved? Is it you slip a guy $50 and it happens? Or how much goes into that process?
The process for laying out tables is months, but has to be locked in about 2 weeks out. Now, usually we have the fire marshal lanes and all that locked out a little further out. And then we can adjust tables within the allocated space as needed up to about 2 weeks out. And the reason for that is they don't have enough tables in their inventory, so they have to rent additional tables to support our event. And we don't want them to over-rent, we don't want to under-rent. So that's the 2 week out allows for that finalization of the orders. It's a question I haven't thought of before being asked here, but that's kind of cool.
there are some members of the GBC community who are less rule following and we're planning to sneak in just some extra tables. And at other conventions, you can get away with that. And I was just trying to figure out, because as GBC, in function, the GBC tables, we have outgrown that. And I'm just looking around and I don't know where to put other things, so it's about a fairly dramatic table revision to get a bigger GBC island.
So that one, the best way forward is to make sure that Sean, our theme coordinator, has your inputs, and we will take that into consideration as we move forward. But be specific. So if you have 7 8-foot and 1 6-foot table of which to put your displays and an 8-foot table in the center, let them know what you want.
Okay.
And then we will try to figure out where to put it.
Thank you.
We have time. We have plenty of time to make that. A lot of that will get started in earnest probably March or April.
March or April. Thank you.
Hi, I have a question from Dave Sheffick. He's loving our swag, and he's wondering where you get all of the ideas, where BrickCon gets the swag ideas.
Our brains. We actually pay attention to swag and ideas and online things and just things we end up talking about at staff meetings, and or something we see in a Reddit channel or in a Google search, and it's like, ooh, that would be kind of cool. Or our measuring device that we added this year was something that Bree and Jesse thought of and said, hey, would it be cool to have this? And we all went, yes. And then we made it happen. So where those ideas come from, it's like asking somebody, where do you get the idea to write a book? It's really hard to say. They just come up. Sometimes, every once in a while, it's even provided to us. Somebody will mention, hey, can we have this or that? There's always been requests for stickers. So this year we actually have, I think starting last year, we started selling stickers. We've added more stickers this year. We have a patch. We have the printed brick. Some of these ideas are just, hey, we need a cheap price point so that they can buy a $3 or $5 item to say they've been to BrickCon. What can we do in that price point? So we'll look at a price point and ideas. So the answer, yes, they come from everywhere.
Thanks.
Other
If
questions?
there aren't any more in-person questions just at the moment, there's another online one.
Sure.
It says, why wasn't there an award brick for virtual TBB 1898? I find it extremely unfair that the other builder that entered wasn't an award brick for virtual, but there was an award in person, unless it's being saved for closing ceremonies. So they were wanting, for the big collaboration, wondering if there was an online award for that.
I don't have an answer for that. I don't know, because I don't monitor what the online submissions were. So if there was submissions in that category, that'd be a miss on our part. If there was no submissions in that category, then there was nothing to award. So I have to follow up with the virtual team and find out what happened.
Thank you.
Quiet group. Go ahead, Steve.
2 questions. 1, where's your orange hat? And 2, why can't we use these rooms on the side today?
So first question, I'm presenting, not managing. Second question, I unlocked the rooms on my way over here. No, the rooms are supposed to be open, but there's nothing really scheduled. Well, I think there's a part exchange right now, but I don't think there's anything scheduled in there other than just be a quiet room. So there's nothing to put on the screens. Yeah, that was on purpose to. So yesterday it was done on purpose to help educate. Hey, we have other stuff going on. You can't get in until then. Today they were actually supposed to be unlocked at 8. We just didn't get to it. So that's our bad. It's been fixed. Other questions? Trying to think of things that I can answer or talk about.
The 2023 notebooks are awesome, and I'm wondering, do you take requests? Because I haven't used this one up yet, but I think by 2027, I think you should do notebooks again.
We're open to requests.
Yeah. The other question, more generally, is can you describe more of the process of acquiring all the boxes of cool stuff you give out as door prizes, or even the things for the games? Are you just like hovering around Walmarts, backs of trucks, whatever?
Well, you can actually answered it right there. So we don't actually have a direct way to order lots of stuff. We are supported by Lego, so that gives us the ability to order some stuff at a discount. I wouldn't say it's a huge discount, but we use that to populate our games because that's where we know we have to have 50 of something, and if we can order it direct from Lego, then we're guaranteed to get 50 of something. When it comes time to our prizes, we're doing the exact same thing everybody else does, which is where can I get the best deal?
So it's the whole team looking out for it, or is it like just Sean's problem?
It's actually not Sean's problem. It's our prize princess's problem. She's actually in charge of the acquisition stuff, and she just coordinates it. So if she may go out and say, hey, I need 2 of these, or here's a deal here. Can I get a couple people to help me buy stuff? We have corporate cards, and we go out and do the purchases and deal with the expenses and add it to the pool. We lucked out. Every once in a while, somebody will contact us. So just this year, for next year, Brooks and Minifigs corporate reached out to us and say, hey, we have some extra stuff that we can't get rid of. Do you want it? And so we went through the list and says, yeah, we'll take these and this and these. 3 days later, they arrived at our place. So, but we get a little bit lucky in some of those things because of who we are, and people know who we are and know that we need the brick. But nothing's free. So yeah, it's a lot of it is, hey, Walmart's have a BOGO sale. There we go. We'll go to the BOGO sale. Maybe a scratch and dent.
The warehouse over the year, or
we may get a red tag sale at Lego, and we'd go in and grab some red tag items. So yeah, it's no different than pretty much everybody in the room and how they get their Lego as cheap as possible.
I mean, except you don't go to conventions to get door prizes.
Hold on. I got things talking in my ear. All right, now I can hear again.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, no problem. Welcome, Brandon.
Thank you for this opportunity to get the insight and ask questions. Themes. I love the themes. I think the themes are great. Is there any thought of changing themes? I've heard some people poo-poo the limited themes versus in days past, we've had other types of themes, more specific. Any thoughts on going forward with different types of themes or stretching or adjusting themes?
We've had people providing input, but internal discussions, we have not thought much about changing our themes. Brothers Brick usually gets a special slot. They're one of our big sponsors. They can promote cool stuff on their site, and they usually have some really cool, unique ideas. And then they also sponsor the awards and stuff that are handed out. So they get a little bit of preference in adding a unique theme every year. But other than that, a lot of it comes down to labor issues. Reason why we got rid of it, we couldn't handle 25 different theme coordinators. And because we need 2 coordinators per every theme, so somebody can take a break or work on a given day when they have to work, it wasn't working. So we weren't having people managing the themes on the displays. So we did a lot of work in consolidating it to the 7 that we have, and everything can fit in those 7 or could fit in any number of those 7. Everything we do is art, so art can be anything. We just stick with the 7. We have 2 theme coordinators. We're pretty much guaranteed that on Thursday, a coordinator will be on site. We work with them to make sure at least one of them is on site. And then this year we added little things like their picture, so you can actually figure out who they are. Actually, I think we added that last year. I think that's when it started. But yeah, we continue that, and it helps people, especially when, what was it on Thursday? 25% of the people stood up when it was their first year. We need to let them know who these people are because they haven't been here before. And if we had to have 50 pictures for 25 themes, it just becomes a blurry. So yeah, there is really no discussion to add or break out separate themes. If something became pressing and said, hey, it'd be really cool to have this because of XYZ, we could probably contemplate it, but it's just to have a theme, to have a separate theme, probably not going to get contemplated. Yes, Dan.
Okay, another question from Dave. What is the hardest part about organizing BrickCon, and how has that changed over the years?
Hardest part about organizing BrickCon right now, it's the economy, financing, because it's a rough economy right now. One of the articles, and the economy doesn't actually affect the current year. It affects ticket sales, which then apply to future years. So if we looked at 2023, it was a COVID rebound. It was great. The economy was doing really well. We sold out tickets. All things were great. Last year, we had a dip in the economy. One of the articles that I had read in the middle of the summer, Lake Chelan wasn't selling gas for their boat rentals. People would take their boat, go out in the middle of the lake, sit. They wouldn't go up and down the lake. This year, they aren't renting the boats. It's all discretionary funds, and we are sadly part of that discretionary fund pool. They'd rather buy a dozen eggs than come to BrickCon because they like to eat. So we're in this weird mess. Now, the cool part, at least for our vendors, the people that are here are buying. So there is those that want to be here. But it creates it'll create some challenges as we look at next year. Other challenges, we've been doing this for such a while that it's more like bumps than challenges when we get into some of the other discussions. Dan, would you agree with that? For those online, what Dan's response was is basically it feels like a well-oiled machine. It's just running really well. So, Dave, did that answer your question?
Okay, there's actually an add-on to Dave's question from
Okay.
Amanda that says, what's your favorite or most rewarding part of organizing BrickCon?
Watching the kids walk into the room for the first time. It's that's probably the most rewarding part, and it's not just the kids. I mean, sometimes the adults are doing the exact same thing because they just can't believe what they're seeing. That is the reward. Watching these people see what we've all built, because we built really cool stuff. So, thank you, Kyle.
First of all, I'll say that TBB is, regarding the themes, TBB is open to suggestions if somebody has a good idea for next year. But my question to you, Steve, are there any efforts going on to engage with attendees year-round in a virtual sense? And if so, can you speak a little bit to that?
Yes. So this year we've been trying hard to increase our socials presence, and this year we had a gentleman join our team, Ryan, who actually has taken on our social media and social presence, and because of that, and people have been paying attention, we've probably started seeing an uptick in our social presence in the last couple of months, and that's all because Ryan's been able to take that on and run with it. So yes, there are already plans to try to get engagement on our Discord year-round. You'll see announcements probably starting within a month of this one as we start putting in plans for next year. When we announce the theme at closing, we will be looking immediately for artwork and comm model ideas. And those things we have to actually plan almost immediately after because we need to place the order for Lego in February in order to get the parts here in July so that we can build or whatever appropriately for the comm model or whatever it is that we're handing out. So yes, you will see an increased presence going forward. It has been a sore spot. Dave Shefsick, when he was part of the team, worked really hard on that. But he had his workload and didn't always reach out where it could have been reached out to. But Ryan has a bit more time on his hands to be able to do that, and we've given him some tools to help with that. So, yeah, I'm not knocking Dave's work. He did a great job when he was on the team. but so we're trying to continue starting with what he started on and grow it. So, yep, all right, online.
Okay, question from Carl. What part of BrickCon needs more volunteers, and what part of BrickCon needs the most financial or item donations?
Let's hear, volunteers. Where do we need the most volunteers? The hardest area to get volunteers to assist with is actually our ticket taking, but that's kind of a really boring job compared to everything else, so we understand that. Next year, we may try to push more of that into a security role, just so that we don't have to burden a really boring job on our volunteers. But that's probably our biggest one. The second area that tends to have the most holes is actually our virtual liaisons. So the interactions between what's going on here and what's going on in the virtual space. Those are probably our two biggest areas that we continue to need volunteers. Areas for financials and donations. Well, cash is always just plain good. Because we have to spend on, everything that you're seeing in here had to be paid for in some fashion. All the AV work, the room rentals, the table rentals, the sets we buy for games, the sets we buy for giveaways, all of that. If you're looking at wanting to sponsor something specifically, get a hold of us through our help at BrickCon.org, and we can get RJ, who's our sponsorship coordinator, in touch with you and work out specifics. In terms of items, it'd probably be the best way to do that as well. Items, we probably look at either giveaways that we could put in swag bags, in which case we need like 600 of them, but based on this year's numbers, or the prize giveaways, the prize pool stuff, which we try to target $100 set minimum. So hopefully that answered his questions. Go ahead.
So my son and I came to the exhibition in 23, and then we came to the con last year. He was old enough to be the teen fan of Lego. And then obviously we're here this year. So I would like to say thank you on his behalf as well as ours and many others for all the time you volunteered. And I know there's many others who've volunteered. And so just thank you for creating this space for us to come and enjoy. And so I'd be curious, just hear a little bit of the history. Like, how did it get started? And maybe what are some milestones along the way?
I don't have it all in my head. Believe it or not, Wikipedia kind of covers chunks of that. Before I actually get into it, that is actually an area as we grow our BrickCon Foundation website. That's one of the areas I want to add is a evolving history of BrickCon and the foundation. So hopefully we can get more of that online, and when we do that, we should be able to post pictures and videos of the year as we progress through the years to really help show that 2002 when we were in the center hall at Seattle Center, and there wasn't a ticketed event. It was just 40 people, if I remember right, Dan, something like that. And I don't think Dan and I were either of us were there that year. But you could ask Wayne; he was there, or Tom Rayford. But yeah, there's like 40 people getting together, put a bunch of builds out. Some people wandered in. Everybody had some fun. 2002, they were also in center, or 2003, they were also in the center hall. I believe that's the year they built the longest railroad bridge in the world at the time. Now I forget how long it was, but it was all just suspended on the floor. It was literally in the center hall area on the main floor, and they just coned off a bunch of space and they built it in the floor. 2004, they were in what used to be a mall. It's no longer there. They just had a storefront in the mall. It was near Dan Parker's studio at the time, if I remember correctly. 2005 we were back at Seattle Center. We were in a place that became the skate park, and I don't know what it is now. But it was known as the Pavilion. And we were there through 2005 may have been Northwest Rooms. 2006, 2007 for sure was the Pavilion. We got kicked out of the Pavilion because they wanted to build the skate park. So we moved to the exhibition hall next to McCall Hall, underneath the ballet theater or the ballet training center. We were half of the building or 3/4 of the building that year. In 2008, 2009 through basically 2019, we were in the exhibition hall all those years. We grew, took over the Cornish for all our breakout sessions and in keynote presentations. We were limited by the Cornish because it could only hold about 435 people. So we had to cap AFOLs at 500 because not everybody comes to all the sessions, so we could get away with that. 2020, obviously COVID. When the Maxwell Hotel was built, that became our host hotel. And then we'd have all our after-hours stuff in their basement where their conference rooms were. For 2020, in the COVID year, we actually were still at the Maxwell. There was 5 of us locked up in the conference room, all masked up. We had like 13 or 15 computers and 20-some screens and a little mini stage, all in this conference room, hosting the 1,500 people that joined us virtually, which was kind of scary, a little daunting, and really awesome. We had a lot of fun in there. I don't think we got any more sleep during those 2 days than we did here. But we had a lot of fun. Dan was writing code on the fly to make changes, and we had a gazillion Zoom sessions open all at the same time. And 2021 and 2022 were basically COVID limited. 2021 was definitely COVID limited. We could only sell about 3,500 tickets, period, because of the limitations of the number of people we could have in the Seattle Center Hall. 2022 lifted some of that, but even though we were back to fire marshal limitations for what we could have in the hall, just very few people came out. And 2023 we were here. 2024 we converted over to the foundation, and that's where we are today. So very brief run through of our history. I won't get into all the personnel changes because I don't necessarily know when they all were. I think Wayne took over in 2004, and then I took over through transition by 2019 as our, everybody calls me the head, but I'm just more the face. I'm the person who's willing to be on stage. It is a team effort. So let's go over here. Over there. All right.
So Nicole asks, is the plan to keep the virtual ticket as an option? And how many virtual tickets makes it worth your while to keep it going?
First one, at the moment, yes. We will have virtual next year. What makes it viable? I don't know if I can go into that yet, because it's the way we've priced our virtual is to be affordable, not necessarily to ever break even. So the way it's currently priced, we would never break even. Doesn't matter how many we sell. But the cost for 50 versus 500 is almost the same. So the amount we'd lose per person attending goes down. So the idea is if we could find a sponsor to sponsor the whole virtual thing, then we'd be fine. Then it wouldn't matter how many people there were. Now we could look at price changing, but and we can have that conversation. Are we priced right or are we priced low? We haven't had that conversation, so I can't say if we could actually make it a profit center if we raise the prices, because we haven't had that conversation. So, right?
So I'm not sick of all of you yet. But it sounds like the economy still needs some time. Is the goal still to return to a 4-day convention?
So 3-day versus 4-day versus 5-day. I don't see us changing. This year is, I think, what we will continue to do. For those that have known how we ran at Seattle Expo Hall, we would do the hall setup on Wednesday starting in the afternoon, get everything set up, and then open the doors at 8 a.m. for people to set up their mocks and check in and do all that fun stuff. Now to keep some of the costs down, all day Thursday for the center hall is set up, so it's actually half cost, half price for that day. As long as we don't, we blurred the line a little bit this year because we hosted the BrickCon 101 down there. But I don't see us changing that. It allows people that have work constraints to still go to work Thursday and then come in. Maybe they can take a half day and then come in at 2 and set up and not miss anything. Having opening ceremonies up here Thursday night wouldn't change because that's when we'd have them in the old model anyway. And we haven't heard of any complaints on the whole thing. So at this point, we obviously I can't make the decision because it's a team effort, but my vote would we don't change. But this seems to be working, and we haven't had complaints to change otherwise. All right.
So Betts asks, is there any way to volunteer virtually year-round and not just during BrickCon?
Yes, contact us at help@brickcon.org. Steve.
Okay, because I own a retail store up north in Monroe, I get the exposure of occasional people that have come as public, and sometimes they give me a little feedback on what they've seen or how it felt to them.
Mm-hmm.
So what I've got comes from last year, which I'm sure you know there were some issues with the setup. So the complaint I heard it more than once, so that's why I'm repeating it now, more than once, that they would walk in, this was last year, of course, and they were underwhelmed as their initial response. Granted, once they get in, they can see it, but that initial walking in, they were underwhelmed because there was nothing dramatic, nothing eye-catching right from the door. Now, I know this year's better because you moved the dividing line for the vendors over, so it's a little bit more, but I sense I may get a couple of those comments again after this is over in the following months, that there wasn't something right at the start. Is that something worth thinking about? Would you consider choosing one of the builders? Hey, you've got a big mock, if you're bringing it back, or is it bigger this year? Putting them front and center so that as the public walks in, there's at least something, wow, okay, I've entered Legoland or whatever, kind of thing.
So there's a couple of items on that. So we actually agreed with you for last year, or agreed with your patrons that made that comment. So that's why we did the change. But we did the change a little differently than putting the big wow factor right in front of the door. And the reason being, if you put the huge wow factor right in front of the door, you get a mass of people trying to get in, and you end up with a choke point. So we, in our table rearrangement we did this year, we made it more, you can walk in and keep walking to then get to the stuff. But if you notice that things like the really giant castle is on the entry side of the fantasy display, the Williams Castle. So I think we've actually addressed most of that, other than there's nothing right in front of the door like there was last year, and why. So let me know. Give me feedback throughout the year as you hear that. I'd be welcome to that. All right.
Okay, some feedback from Carl. Carl says, thank you for continuing the virtual options. I'm a local in-person attendee and use the virtual option for some of the breakout sessions, such as this one.
Cool, thank you.
I feel bad, but the mic's open. We've mentioned in past years we've had a maximum number of in-person attendees. Do we still have one? And we do have a maximum number of attendees. What is the ratio of first-time attendees to permanent addicts to teens versus all other categories of membership? Do you go at, or do you not even think about that?
We don't. So, second question first. We don't always think about that. We're just happy when it happens. I don't know what the actual number is. We can actually run the numbers. We have all the data. We have all the big data calculations that we want to do in Excel and all that fun stuff. But just by rough guess, when people stood up on Thursday, it was somewhere between 20 and 30% were first timers, which is great. In terms of capacity, yes, we actually do have a max capacity, and it's basically how many people can we get in this room plus about 10%, which puts us pretty close to 600. So, yeah. We limit ourselves by what we can host in the room because we don't have to have people not in the room. It's hard to win a door prize if you can't get in. We don't want to deny somebody a chance to win a door prize. They're cool sets. So.
On that topic, the thought I had on Thursday when 100 people stood, or whatever it was, 100 people stood up is, okay, but we're not hitting that 500-600 number. Seemed like, boy, 3 years in that, we should be at 800 people. So it felt like, okay, what's unsaid is we lost 100 people from last year. Probably a more interesting question would be to have people stand up if this was their second year, specifically their second year. They came last year.
Second in a row.
Second in a row. So they came last year and they liked it and came back versus maybe because we don't know why people didn't come. Any number of reasons, but 100 people that didn't come that were here the year before would seem like a significant number. And is there something we can do about that?
That's a good point. I haven't personally really thought about that much. That would be an interesting data point. I mean, we can actually calculate that. We can actually go into the things and based on email addresses and figure out, how many of last year's first years, because we can find that, actually returned. And we don't necessarily want to then, I don't want to gather additional information as to why or why not they're here. I don't want to inundate people with surveys, right? You get burnout on those really fast. We do read every survey that's filled out, and sometimes even take it very personally if people have had complaints because, we messed up. What could we have done better? We're always trying to raise our bar. But it's an interesting point that, there's probably some thought that we can put into that. How to reach out to those that aren't here. There's a huge number of CLUG people that are here, but if you go back 10 years, there's a lot of people that were members of CLUG that no longer go to CLUG. Some people just grow out of Lego, or they get another hobby, they get kids. There's things that happen that give us new dark ages. And so we can't account for those, right? And there's going to be some percentage that always does that every year. So what that percentage is, don't know. Dan, you had anything to add on that?
I'm going to add one thing.
Hold on. Okay, nothing to add. All right, go ahead.
I'm curious if your data will show it at the end, but anecdotally, I have heard lots of Canadians did not feel comfortable coming to the U.S. right now, and so maybe international visitors are down as part of it.
We are down 2/3 on our Canadian population. But as soon as the various political things occurred, we knew that was going to happen right off the bat. And then most of us actually go to BrickCon or went to BrickCon. And so we were recording people when we were up there. And it was confirming what we were expecting. And there's nothing we can do about that. But this year, our AFL attendance seems to be up overall. So we didn't necessarily lose out and have less AFOLs in attendance. We just ended up with more locals, which we're quite happy to have. Go ahead, Dan.
Dave has a comment. Bricks Cascade, BrickCan, and Brick Slopes are also newish competition in the area.
Bricks Cascade I wouldn't consider newish anymore because they're at 15 years. BrickCan closed down after 10. That's hard to say if there's newish. Brick Slopes definitely is one of the youngest of the A&E recognized in the U.S. 2 weeks ago. They were the week before Labor Day. But in terms of attendance, I know they were also impacted from the economy. They saw a drop. Bricks World had a drop. Bricks Cascade had a drop. So the economy is definitely hitting everybody. It's not just us.
How networked are all the BrickCon conventions? And I know there's some other sort of like not actual convention things where they do the expo or whatever else. Like, how often do you talk to the organizers of Brick Slopes or, I don't know, whatever Cascade, the local ones, obviously, it's hard not to talk to those people because small world. But like the folks on the East Coast or anything else like that, is there sort of like a trade association of Lego conventions or even just a Discord or a mailing list or we all know Dave or something?
The simple answer, not nearly enough. We don't talk hardly at all. There are two types of conventions. There's actually those that are recognized by Lego, which is the A&E designation that we get. And that white brick you get, that's actually sent to us by Lego to say, yes, we're recognized by Lego, even though it doesn't actually say we're recognized by Lego. It just says an A&E event, which is, yeah, we're working that. AFOL networking event. So then you have to expand that acronym again, and yeah. We are actually pushing back, but Lego's gone silent in the last 18 months, something like that. So we don't know what's actually going on at the corporate level. They would periodically call in the various con ambassadors, and we'd have at least a yearly meeting. That hasn't happened in 2 years. We're trying to figure. There's been some discussion, myself talking with Bob Day at this con. Well, so the other part, where do we talk? At the cons. We don't talk much online. We actually try to set up 2 different Discord servers, try to getting all the A&Es and such together. Hasn't worked. Even though they've signed people up, it just hasn't worked. And I don't know what the best answer to that is.
I mean, what the is the best answer. So what you've done.
Yeah. So yeah, I think there's potentials if we can get the engagement. And I'm not saying I'm planning to push and nobody else is. I'm not necessarily trying to push, because when you get nothing, you tend to put nothing into it. And so I could be just as bad not pushing to try to get more interactions with everybody. But yes, I think there would be things to be gained if we did communicate more. I know there's certain, when you deal with both charity and for-profit, there is some friction that you have to deal with or topics that you just don't talk about. But overall, yeah, I think there's things to be benefited on the A&E side, as well as the non-A&E events. So Boise with Mockfest, that's not a recognized event. Bricks in the Six in Toronto, I have to make sure I pronounce that right, as I learned last night. So yeah, I think there would be benefit to try to figure out how to get us all to talk, and we can talk our challenges because we really want to cross promote. We'll run through the slides of all the cons that we know about, both A&E and non-A&E, in our closing ceremony, because we want to self promote. We want to make sure that everybody has a chance wherever they are to find a con near them, or as a chance to travel.
Are there any cons that manage to pull off stuff that you're like, man, that's really cool, but we don't have the bandwidth or some other reason to do it here? And if so, what are those cool things?
Every con has lots of cool stuff. Our opinion is that is what makes them theirs, and we won't try to duplicate it. Even if we could. Mitten build, BrickCon, we will never do it. That is BrickCon's thing, not ours. And why would we need mittens? We don't wear mittens. They do. So why try to duplicate something that's not us? And we look at that across the board. Is that uniquely them? Yes. Okay, we won't do it. Even if we would really like to do it, we won't. That's the way we look at it. Now, if there's things that you kind of see at a few others that might be really cool to add, we're always open for suggestions. So, where are we at? Nicole. Oh, I'm at my time. All right. Last question, online, otherwise? All right.
There's
one more.
one that just popped up, which is Dave asks, what is uniquely BrickCon?
What is uniquely BrickCon? I don't know if I have a good answer for that. Because they all get into community building, they all get into trying to promote really cool mocks. They all try to do educational stuff. They all try to do games. A little self-boasting. We're 24 years old. That's uniquely BrickCon. No other con is that old. Oh yeah, that's true. Virtual is right now. We are the only con doing virtual. That is very uniquely BrickCon at this point. It used to be, a lot of them did it some sort of virtual. We're now the only one doing virtual. All right,
yeah,
last one.
I'll say that you guys are probably the most online connected of all the cons that I've gone to over the 25 years of me doing this.
Cool.
Including SCED. BrickWorld didn't use SCED at all when I went a few years ago. I love it. I love the fact that I don't have to have my program on me all the time.
Excellent. Thank you. I know Sked this year has been a little buggy. We had one, was it you that had your somebody came to us and said, yeah, Sked's showing that my session's in LA. Oh, it wasn't you. Okay. I forgot who it was, but yeah, we have some Sked bugs this year, but most of the time restart Sked and then it just works again. But yeah, thanks for the input. All right, I think it's time to wrap it up so we can move on to the next presentation, game, lunch, whatever it is. Oh, yes. QR codes for the survey. Great place to provide some additional feedback. You can do it, you can provide your email or you can do it totally anonymous. We don't care either way. Actually, I think we force it to try to be as anonymous as possible unless you want to provide your name. But yeah, fill it out. You're welcome to go through the questions, see if that spurs another question. There's open comment section at the end. And thanks for coming.